Cause some of my niggas said dope, them niggas can make the film. My daddy, he showed me a road just in case I gotta take it there.
A man shot multiple times in a motel parking lot in East Houston. Investigators say surveillance video captured 3 suspects running around the Motel 6 on the East Freeway and Mercury.
So, on October 4th, 1996, I gave birth to a 9-pound, 4.5-ounce big baby boy. His name was Nicholas Wolford Alfred. He was the cutest big ball. He had slick hair. He was so handsome and beautiful. On April 20th, 2022, 3:54 a.m., he was pronounced dead. He was murdered. Yeah, he was murdered. Nicholas loved music.
Long nights in the field, running them dark roads. Mama told me I gotta live. This beat is for real. If you ever felt this pain that I feel, you know my heart goes. Long nights in the field, running them dark roads. Mama told me I gotta live. Block on my heart though. If I spit this for real. If you ever felt this pain that I feel, you know my heart goes. Long nights on the field, running them dark roads. Mama told me I gotta.
My husband and I, who wasn't his father and I didn't stay together, but we became best friends. But I was blessed enough to marry Reverend Andre Dugar. And he married me with 4 children. They weren't his, and he loved them as if they were his own. He loved the idea of having a son, just as Nick loved having the idea of a father at home. Even though he would spend a summer with his real father, Andre was here 24/7. Andre showed him a lot. So I can recall him being in a room and he would beat on everything. And I was like, can you just stop? Just stop the noise. And Andre would be like, let him, he's learning something. And I'm happy I didn't, because he became percussionist of the year. He loved playing instruments. He loved the drums. He became a master at everything he laid his hands on. He began to play the keyboard. He loved piano. He played by ear. Then he learned how to read. He got to read music. He also played the bass, the guitar, whatever he put his hands on, the accordion, he played. He was gifted. He had the most prettiest, well, I mean, I say prettiest, the cutest smile. I like to say he got that from me. He had 3 siblings from me. Jasmine, his oldest sister, Jada, she's right underneath him, and Margarita, who we call Maggie. That was his baby sister. We call her AKA Country. He loved each of them the same but differently. He was their protector. They always said that I spoiled him. And I said no, he was just the only boy, you know. Everyone that came into contact with my son loved him. You had no choice. He was Nick. He was a protector at heart. He was a worshiper. He loved God. He loved church. He loved people. But at the same time, he was very private. He loved his family. He loved God. He loved God. When I got the phone call, I was asleep. His father called me at 7:31 and said, when was the last time that I had spoken to my son? And I said, why? He said, when was the last time you spoke to Nick? And I said, last night. He said, call him. And I said, I just talked to him. I said, what's wrong? He said, call him. I called my son's phone and it went to voicemail, and this was not normal for me because he would answer the phone for me. My heart sunk because as a mom, I guess you just know. And I called his father back and I told him he wasn't answering. And he proceeded to tell me that, he heard my son had got shot, and he was sending his mom to find out because this happened in Houston and I'm in Louisiana. His father was driving. I started to pray and I was like, no. I hung up the phone and I started to plead with God. Don't let this be true. I went to my daughter's house and I told her, and I said that there was a possibility, and she kept calling her brother, and we didn't want to call the other two siblings. And she said later that she saw the look on my face and it frightened her when I told her. A couple of minutes later, his father called me and said, he's very blunt, said Nick is dead. I collapsed. I remember waking up to EMTs telling me to take my medication. I need a break. So many different stories. I didn't know what was going on. They said it was a shootout. It was something. I just wanted to know what happened to my son. And I was not getting the proper answers. So I had to go to Houston the next day to identify my son. Crossing the state line. I had crossed it so many times to go and get him or drop him off to his father's house. This time I was going to identify my son. Once I got there, they didn't want me to. There was some type of security issue you had to call, and fingerprints and all of this, and I made a couple of phone calls and that changed. And I wanted to go to the site where it happened because we had to go get his belongings. He was at a hotel because he was a truck driver. He had got a CDL. He wanted to drive trucks like his fathers, both of them. His Andre and his real father were truck drivers, and he wanted to drive trucks like them. So he had got a CDL. So I had talked to him that week prior, and he said he was waiting on his truck to come in. And he was good. He was happy. He was about to go pick up his daughter that week. So I went to the hotel and I got his things, and I asked them if I could go see the spot where my son was gunned down. When I got there, I looked at the surrounding areas because I wanted to see it as my son saw it. I looked on the ground and saw that they had some of his blood that had dried up. I guess they had missed it from not cleaning it up properly. And I remember touching it. And it was one of the hardest moments. But I had to because I was his mama. We got his body back home. Going to the morgue was everything that they say, or you would imagine. To see your child lying there. He looked as if he was sleeping, and I wanted him to wake up so bad. But he wasn't. And I think my son-in-law had to carry me out. I don't recall a lot. It was horrible. In the upcoming days, I spoke to the detective who told me what they assumed was going on. My son was hunted down by 3 suspects. It was a senseless crime. My son was a hero. He protected his girlfriend who was with him at that time, the last few seconds of his life. He chose to protect her, which is what we raised him to do, be a man, be a protector. And they gunned my baby down.
Who called me?
One.
No, March
wait.
come.
On your mark. You said. Watch Robin. Move out of the way.
So, if you had to ask me what was my best memory of Nicholas, oh my goodness, there's so many. He was a great cook. We would argue about who made the best gravy, and I'm not gonna lie, he probably did, because my husband showed him. He loved some of the same shows I did. We loved to fish. I showed him how to fish at the age of 8. And we would go every year on our vacation, and the rest of everyone in the family would be sleeping. And Nicholas and I would go fishing together. Our last fishing trip was July 2020, before COVID. And he was upset because I caught more fish than him. But he ended up catching the alligator gar, and he was just thrilled. And that was our thing. We also worshiped together. We went to church together. He loved his siblings. He loved his sisters. He loved his siblings on his father's side. He had siblings on his father's side. He had brothers and he had sisters, and he loved them as well. He loved his dad. They boxed a lot. They would race. Nicholas would always say he would, beat his old man, Pops, I'm gonna beat you, and they would run. But most importantly, he loved Nyla.
You give yourself a big 70 piece. You start with that part right there. You gotta eat everything. Okay.
Nyla came and changed him. I could see him becoming the man that I always knew he would be, that God promised me he would be. He loved her. Every time he saw her, his face would light up. And he would be, Mom, look at her. She looked like me. Mom, she looked like you. Look at her smile. He was a great father. A great father. They caught the suspects, all 3 of them. They are all behind bars. I'm grateful to God for that, because some parents don't get that justice, but God gave it to us. I never thought I would be sitting here doing a documentary about my son. I miss him daily. But I know that my beliefs and the God that I serve, I will grieve, not without hope, because I know I'm going to see him again if I live right, and that's my belief. I still feel his presence in my heart and around me. When you decide to shoot someone, you take on the God complex. You take on a form of thinking that you're God, as if you created this being. You did not. These three people decided to take on a God complex and take out my son, take his life as if they gave it to him. And they did not. When you shoot someone, there is always other people on the other side of that gun. Not just him, not just her. Whoever you decide to shoot, there is always somebody left on the other side of the gun. There is a mother, there is a father, there is a child, there is a sister, there is a brother, there is a cousin, there is a best friend. There is a child who will be fatherless because you decided to take on the God complex. My son Nicholas was and still is a good man. I am blessed to be called his mother. And I will do everything in my power to not let another family feel this pain. I will do everything in my power so that no one will forget his name. Nick, the protector, my protector, his siblings' protector, his daughter's protector. Before you shoot someone, know that there is always another side of that gun. It leaves a trail. Not only was my son's life taken away, but these three people, their families have been affected, I'm sure. I don't think that you wake up and want your son to be a murderer. You raise them the best that you want to or what you're capable of doing. 4 lives were affected that night. Actually 5. His girlfriend. But after it happened, so many other lives were affected and are going to be affected. Because these people didn't think of what was on the other side of the gun. Yeah. I miss them. This is a pain that you don't want to ever have to go through. I don't wish this on my worst enemy, not even their family. Think about it. Think about what's on the other side of the gun before you pull a trigger, before you bite it. Vengeance is mine, said the Lord. So, think about it. I love you, Nick. Forever. And always. Until I see you again. And I got Nala. Waymaker.